día de hace 22 años, cuando estaba rodando una película.
Sí. Me quedé sin mi mejor amigo, pero también sin película.
Algunos pensaron que a Julio le dio un pronto, una especie de ataque, y se escapó.
No era una idea tan absurda, ¿no crees? Desaparecer, no dejar ni rastro en este mundo. Hubo un tiempo en que Julio no soportaba la vida. Intentaba mantenerse en pie gracias al cine.
El cine tiene esa cosa tan rara. Yo he soñado más de una vez que él estaba vivo. Cuando me despierto trato de olvidarme de esa idea. Total, ¿para qué?
Ese actor era alguien a quien yo veía aquí. No estaba muerto, estaba aquí. Ahí está.
Es él.
Ya. No tiene ni idea de quién es, pero ni idea.
Pero que es un nombre.
La memoria es muy importante, sí. Pero una persona no es solamente memoria.
Me ha mirado como si yo fuera nadie.
Es ahí donde usted y sus familiares pueden hacer algo por él, capaz de conmoverle, capaz de despertar su alma.
Su alma.
Hello, and welcome to the MFTV Movie Club Now Playing. I'm Beth, and I am 50% of the Made for TV Movie Club podcast. This is our new YouTube channel where we're going to be reviewing current TV and film projects and interviewing people in the entertainment field. As our listeners of the podcast know, we love all things TV and movies from the late 20th century, but this channel allows us to show our love for the modern entertainment industry. So, with all that said, let's begin. Today, I am reviewing a film called Close Your Eyes. It premiered at the Cannes Premiere Sidebar in 2023. It is a Spanish speaking film with English subtitles, and it has received a very impressive 59 nominations and has received more than 21 wins. That's really significant for a film. According to IMDb, the synopsis is a Spanish actor disappears during the filming of a movie. Although his body is never found, the police conclude that he has suffered an accident at the edge of a cliff. Many years later, the mystery returns to the present day. This film was written and directed by Victor Erice. It is his first film in more than 30 years, and it's being called a semi-autographical film, and it has won 24 film he has won 24 film awards, including at Cannes in 1992 for Dream of Light. He is most well known for El Sur and Spirit of the Beehive, and he's only directed 4 films in the last 50 years. Manolo Solo plays Miguel. Now, Miguel was a novelist and he directed 2 films, but he is no longer doing that. One of the films that he directed was called Farewell Gaze. That film remains unfinished. And the reason for that is because the star, a man named Julio, an actor named Julio, disappeared after filming only 2 of the film sequences, the beginning and the end. So today, Miguel is a fisherman and he translates books and lives on the Spanish coast. He does unwittingly become the catalyst for finding out what happened to his longtime friend who disappeared in 1990. Max is another character in the film, and he is Miguel's longtime friend and film editor. He is a specialist in um, film making, and he is the keeper of many, many films from last century because now we have everything digitized, and he is one of the few people left who knows how to work with the old films. And he is the one that is holding the farewell gaze for Miguel, who gives it to a journalist in order to use it later on for a project. We also will meet Anna, who is Julio's daughter, and she renews an acquaintance with Miguel, and we find out that Anna was largely estranged from her father before he disappeared. The actress Anna Torrent, who plays Anna, also starred in Erice's film Spirit of the Beehive many decades ago, and those are couple of the reasons why they call this a semi-autobiographical film, because Arice also has an unfinished film project, and um, because there is some controversy with that as well. Now we also meet Marta, a producer and journalist for a TV show, a modern TV show in Spain called Unsolved Crimes. She is creating a documentary about Julio and about what happened to Julio. So those are the main characters. Of course, there are many other characters in the film, but I want to talk about the film itself and the storyline, because this film is unlike any other film I've actually ever seen. It is a very quiet film. There is not a single scene in this film where there's actually anybody raising their voices, and it also relies heavily on facial expressions, and really love that, because in order to sort of try and figure out what's actually really going on in the minds of the actors, they don't always say what's going on in their minds. You have to really read their faces to try and find out, particularly Miguel, because he sort of had a difficult time since the film was unfinished, The Farewell Gaze, and his friend disappeared, and he just never knew what happened to that. And sort of after that, his life turned into one of much more solitude and thoughtfulness, but he doesn't really write anymore. And he used to be a novelist. We actually see the cover of one of his films, one of his novels in this film. And I was thinking about something about this film. Typically, when I watch a film, this film is 3 hours long, so it is quite lengthy. I always wonder what would matter. Would it matter if a scene was deleted out of a movie? Would it make any difference to the movie itself? And I will say that for this film, almost every single scene I think is necessary to this film, except for when they showed Miguel in his home, um, because I think they could have made it a lot shorter section, and we meet his boss, who owns the fishing boat that Miguel now works on, while he also does book translations. We meet his good friend who watches his dog for him, and we meet the friend's partner who is pregnant, and we find out that he is now known as Mike. So he's really not just changed his life, but he's also changed his name. He lives in an RV, and he has this sort of tarp over it. So the RV itself is where he sleeps and cooks his food, but he actually um, has a living space outside under this tarp where he has books, many books on a bookshelf. And they're really the only thing he owns. He doesn't have a lot of possessions, but these books are there. But what's strange about that, and I can't quite figure out this part, but I was thinking, if it rains, then the dirt floor gets all dirty or gets all wet and kind of makes a mess. So it's a little strange that he has his books out there, but he doesn't seem to have another sort of place to keep them, if you will. So he is really, at this point, a man of simplicity. He lives a very simple life. But now with the documentary, he has agreed to do an interview, which he does. And he doesn't disclose everything he knows about Julio, and that is out of love and respect for Julio. But he does talk about what happened and wonders what happens to his friend. And it sort of leads him on a journey to go ahead and try and find out for himself what happened to Julio. And one of the things I really loved about this film, there was so much I loved about this film. The only thing I thought might change a little bit was if they had made that scene where he is in his coastal town now shorter. I don't know that it was necessary, but everything else I loved, loved, loved about this film, because really at heart, the mystery is what happened to Julio. But where one mystery ends, another begins. And this happens right up until the end of the movie. So we find out some information, and then the movie sort of takes a turn on its head. And then we're left with another mystery, finding out what really happened. And then at the end of the film, we are left wondering what happens next. And I really love that about this film. And I think it was really lovely the way they used the two sequences of the film. I'm not going to spoil it, but they do use the two sequences of the film to help anchor and frame the present day part of the movie. And I think it's so beautiful and a really moving way to tell us a story. So kind of felt like the movie was less about a missing person and really more about the complexities of relationships and friendships that we make, old and new, and how we create relationships in almost unanticipated places and unanticipated times of our lives. If we meet someone last week, are they important to us now? What about somebody that we met 20 years ago, but we never really talk to them anymore? How important are they to us today? Can we still call them friends? How can one movie bring a group of people, almost all of them unknown to one another until recently, together? I mean, what kind of bonds does this create when you begin to look into the mysteries of our lives? And I really love that about this film. I think it just kept moving forward with more and more questions, and not just about the mystery of what happened to Julio, but you start to really care for Miguel and you want to know like what really happened to him as well, because he was clearly affected by the disappearance of Julio and he had to move on with his life, and in some ways he didn't particularly move on well with it. And then he's sort of driven to find out what really happened to Julio. And then you're kind of left wondering, like, what happens next to our new friend Miguel, because we care about him and the relationships that he's forged along the way, and will he continue those, and what really happens. And because I think it's kind of a story that we all think about at times of our lives, where we have a friendship that maybe the person didn't disappear, but we have a friendship that maybe moved on without us. And there's just always lingering questions. And I think that that is the complexity of this movie. It's not just what happened to Julio, but it's the depth of character development that happens. And it happens in a very slow way because this movie is 3 hours long. And I was just entranced almost the entire way full through it. And I just really loved it. I think it's one of the best movies I've seen in years, but I also was confused by that because if it were not for this particular movie, I don't think I would have liked the ending to it at all. In fact, I think in most movies, I would actually be quite critical of the ending, but in this movie, it fit because as the movie sort of started winding down and I knew there was about 10 or 15 minutes left, I kept wondering to myself, how is this going to end in a satisfying way? And, the answer is there. It does have an ending, and I hope it is satisfying for the rest of you, but it has left me with even more lingering questions. And I've had conversations with other people, including my podcast partner, about it because it's just such an endearing film. So, Close Your Eyes is playing in 40 markets right now into October of 2024. If you get a chance, I really recommend seeing it. Again, it is a Spanish film with English subtitles. And in addition to this YouTube channel, you can find me, Beth, and my podcast partner, Kirsten, on our audio podcast. You can listen to us on your favorite podcast app. You can also find us on our socials. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and X or Twitter or whatever they're calling themselves today. And I hope to see you again right here in the clubhouse.